sin as a sort of cancer. A cancer that eats away at us. It eats away at us. I think many of us have become skilled at hiding that. At not paying attention to that cancer. Trying to stuff it or whatever. But I think we can agree, can't we, that that only works for a limited amount of time. David, many of you have heard the name David before. David paints a powerful picture of what happens to us when we stuff our sin in Psalm 32. You might want to read this on your own later today. Psalm 32, I'll just read verses 3 and 4. When I kept silent, when I stuffed it, my bones wasted away. How's that for a picture of cancer? My bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. One thing we share is this desire to be morally clean. It's one thing all of us in this place share. It's common. It's a common experience. Of course, each of us must decide how that's going to get done and where that's going to get done. And I guess this morning it's my responsibility to say to you that according to the Bible, the only place that we can get morally clean is through the person and the work of Jesus Christ. He took all of your and my moral dirt upon himself and on his shoulders when he went to the cross, which we celebrated on Good Friday. He died assuming your sin and my sin. He paid it all. And then he resurrected on the third day, which we are here to celebrate. And he said, okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I can wash you clean of all that you did. Do you want to receive it? Do you want to receive it? We sang about this in our closing song last week. And I was going to sing this, but I'll spare you. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me clean again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. So how long are you going to go through life feeling dirty? You can be cleansed today. Today. Through what Jesus did. Through the person and the work of God's Son. He extends a rain, a downpour of cleansing and forgiveness that we can stand under. And the truth of the matter is God has been sending His rain your whole life, through His Son. And I would say now that He's finally got your attention, will you receive it? Now for those of you who come here regularly, this should come as no surprise, but there's another thirst of the human soul, one that we actually encourage around here. And I don't think we're the only ones that encourage. I think God Himself encourages this thirst, and you may be wondering what it is. It's really a twofold thirst. A, it's a thirst to see others enter into a relationship with God's Son, Jesus Christ. To have what we have. Sometimes people will say, how do I know if I'm saved? How do I know if I'm going to heaven when I die? How do I know that I'm a child of God? And so forth. And I mean, there are all sorts of answers that one could give to a question like that. And just this morning when I was getting ready and I was spending some time in prayer, I was thinking, maybe one of the best ways to know whether you're living the Christian faith the way God intends is if you have a heart that really wants others to have what you have. If that's a passion for you, if you own it, then you want others to own it too, and that's A. And the second part of this thirst is the thirst to offer our lives to God's grander vision. And that's what these binoculars are here for. They're Exhibit D. They're the last prop. And they represent our desire our thirst to live God's grander vision for our lives. Going back to that whole friend thing. It's not enough that you and I enjoy the message and the life that is ours through Jesus Christ. It's not enough for us to enjoy, it's for everyone. This story is for everyone. This good news is for everyone. Which means that no matter how disinterested or distracted people may seem, if God has put someone in your life who does not yet know, then you can never give up on them. You pray for them. You make time for them. You extend Jesus' love to them unconditionally. And as the Spirit creates opportunities, as the Spirit opens windows, if you will, you share Jesus with them. That's our mission at River City Church. It's what God would have us do. That's part A. And then part B is that grander vision that I talked about. And that's like the binoculars. And I can't tell you, as much as I'd like to, what God's grander vision is for you individually. That's not the church's responsibility. That's your responsibility. And that's part of the faith adventure for you. But you can be sure of this, that when you humble yourself before God and when you say, God, I want to know what your unique special purpose is for me. I want to know what your grander vision is for me. Then you will get clarity. Doors will open, and as you faithfully walk through those doors, things will start to come into focus. And you'll begin to get clarity. And then eventually you'll know. And there will be no greater joy than when you know specifically what God created you to do and what He calls you to be. So here we are, Easter 2009. We've considered some of the deepest thirsts of the human heart, the thirst for understanding and meaning to life's big questions, the thirst for connection and community, the thirst to be morally cleansed and washed clean, and then finally the thirst for a grander vision, thirst to really know God's specific purpose for each of our lives. And Jesus said, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. He will rain down meaning. He will rain down His love and a connection to community. He will rain down His forgiveness and His cleansing. And He will rain down that greater purpose and that vision for your life. Anyone interested? Is anybody thirsty? If you are, then I'm going to ask you to do something that will require something of you. Listen carefully. All through history, when people entered into a new reality with God, when a door was opened into who God is and how much He loves us, people would mark that somehow. They would do something that would require something of them. In the Old Testament, they would build an altar, I don't know, out of stones and mud, maybe clay, and they would put something on the altar as a sacrifice. It's kind of like lifting up a prayer to God. Other times they would simply just gather rocks. They would be by a stream, and if you know Palestine, you know there are rocks everywhere, and they would assemble rocks in a pile, a small monument maybe. And that would be a reminder. It would mark a new day in a person's relationship with God. In the New Testament, men like Peter and Andrew and James and John, they were fishermen, and when they marked a new day, what they did was they walked away from their livelihood. They left their nets and their boats, and they followed Jesus. And it was their way of putting a stake in the ground and of saying, you know, this is a new day. And we do that today, don't we, at River City? Most especially, we do that through baptism, water baptism. And if you're not yet baptized, and you have questions about how that whole thing works, then maybe over pizza we can talk about that together this morning. Well, today on Easter 2009, we don't have any rocks in here, but I'm going to ask each of you to do something that will cost something. I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to put a stake in the ground, maybe a small stake, but a stake nonetheless. If you're thirsty and you want Jesus to begin quenching your thirst, or if you know what it is to thirst and you want to recommit yourself to trusting Jesus, then I would ask you to just stand. Just stand up right now, if that is you. I'm here this morning to say that God will deliver. He said it in His Word. Millions of people have received the refreshing rain of God in their lives, and I'm one of them. And I've lived on God's promises ever since, and I claim God's promises however many days He gives me in the future.